Oh, hello, my friends. Welcome to my video blog. I'm super excited today with a guest. You know, I've been bringing some guests into my video blogs because I want you to hear what other amazing coaches, healers, and teachers out there have to share about this crisis that we're all going through right now. So today I have the honor to bring my friend, my sister, Deborah Wilson. Deborah is an author, she's a speaker, she's a healer, and she's an intuitive coach. And I have known Deborah for, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 years. I lost count, has been a long time. And we met back in the days as I was her personal trainer, and she was my 6 a.m. client. I don't know what I was thinking. So we worked together, and of course, our souls resonated a lot, and we became sisters, basically. And then we found out that we were better off drinking some wine together instead of working together as a trainer and a client. So I would consider Deborah was one of my best friends. She's the one that I would call if I got in trouble. So here she is. Welcome, Deb. And before I give the microphone to you, I'm going to jump right in there because today I want us to have a conversation about love, about anger, about connection, about division, about fear, about courage. And we're just going to run this conversation, and the intention of this conversation is to really stir up a conversation, not just today because we're going to do this more times, but it's stir up a conversation about how this crisis right now, it's serving as a great opportunity for all of us to grow, to evolve, to get to know ourselves better. So I'm going to start by sharing what I'm feeling today with this crisis, Deb.
Great.
Usually, for my audience especially, you know how positive, how happy and optimistic I am most of the time. And today I caught myself watching one of these videos that's going viral on Facebook, and my body changed. My body shifted, my emotional state shifted, and I caught myself in this state of annoyance, frustration, and really anger, because frustration and annoyance are just mild words to describe anger, but this annoyance about what's going on, maybe because the tension is rising as we get closer and closer to reopening our country. There's a lot of tension between people who wanted to stay home, people who want to wear masks versus people who don't want to wear masks. So I'm caught in this place like, let's just end this. And I know I'm creating a little bit of resistance. So Deb, let's talk about this tension that's going on right now. First of all, how are you? How are you dealing with this crisis? Tell us how you are first.
How I am. I mean, ultimately, how we all are, I'm going to go really high. How we all are is perfectly fine. Our human experience might feel a little different, right? So, I like to play around with the soul level, right? The soul is, I think, having a great experience. Lots of contrast is happening, lots of expansion. But when we drop into the human experience, I think this is where we can get caught in varied emotions, which are very normal and very okay, right? So for me, today is a great day. My heart is pretty cracked open in a groovy way. I've been using making bread as a kind of a metaphor for life, and there's been joy and frustration and needing patience and all this kind of stuff. Having a lot of time during this time to reflect, to be more consistent with my practice, connecting with friends and family in a different way, and just and really, what I will say is, and as you know who I am, as we talk and my eye movement moves, I feel like I have like computer screens all over, so I get a visual cue, right? One day what came to me was this idea of, and I posted it on my Facebook page, let this time sculpt you. And I was like, ooh, what's that? So I'm very curious about how this time is sculpting me, is sculpting you, is sculpting the world. In other words, something new is wanting to emerge. So when I stay there, when I stay focused, and I think that's a key word, is what we're focusing on, we expand. And so whether that's our emotions that feel, you know, quite negative or feel positive, what we're watching. So for me, you know, I am groovy today. I'm going to get to talk with you. Are you kidding? This is dream work right here. It's like, I could do this all freaking day long, right? It's like someone just sponsor, you know, we need a sponsor, just sponsor us and we'll just talk all day long. But ultimately I feel good. I feel happy today, but it's not always like that throughout the day, you know? And so then what do we do with that? And I think that's what you're talking about. You put your attention on this, whatever you watched on Facebook, and you could feel in your body the disconnect, right? And so for me, I see the higher aspect of me, myself, that doesn't see everything as wrong or judging it as bad. And when I'm not aligned there, when I'm not close to that energy of who I really am, the further away I am, the more disconnect and suffering that I feel, right? So for me, I would look at what you did, and we talk about this all the time. I mean, you already know this, I'm just saying it for audience. You know, you focused on something that started to inform, or your body started to inform you that something about it wasn't how your soul sees it. That's how I would look at that.
Oh, I love that, because that's literally what happened, is this shift in this peaceful, from this peaceful place to this angry and even fearful places, as
Right.
we choose to watch either news on the TV or this, you know, videos going viral on Facebook about certain agendas, conspiracies. Then we get to this place like, oh my God, who do I follow? And I think the message for me today is follow God, follow your heart, follow you. Because there's no lack of information or opinions out there. And if we start really putting our focus on all those opinions that are happening right now, I think it will be very easy to get very disconnected. So the lesson for me today truly is go within more, spend more time journaling, meditating, or reading, and stay away from the news, from all this viral videos going out there. And also, when I tap into the energy, and again, I'm not speaking poorly about Facebook or any social media, is what I'm choosing again to focus on. And then you start reading comments. I mean, you start tapping into other people's emotional state as well. And that, it can be very disturbing in our own field. So let's translate this to our audience, because I'm sure there are other people out there feeling this annoyance, this anger, the fear, right? There's so much uncertainty. And it's even, for me, it's the uncertainty of like, what leader I'm going to follow, what doctor I'm going to listen to, who is sharing accurate information. So all of a sudden we can't even say there's not a solid, sound leader out there for us to follow. So who are we going to follow?
Right.
Like, the message is to go within. So how do, knowing that this invitation is always for love, we want to move towards love.
You know, that's my thing.
How can we make peace experiencing the anger? And how do we go from that place of anger to love without dishonoring our emotions?
Well, yeah, or disassociating or trying to shove them somewhere. And again, it goes back to, okay, so if I'm experiencing some anger, you know, that emotional state, that chemical that's going through, if you will, produces chemical reactions in our body. It's giving me some information, right? And again, for my perspective and my own philosophy and ways of experiencing and being, I'm off course, right? And it's informing me. So I can go in and say, how is this informing me, right? If I'm trying to, maybe it's judgment. Maybe I'm judging someone, you know, I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish the people wouldn't, whatever it is. Like, yeah, I don't want to necessarily go into scenarios because that sounds like I'm judging. But if I'm judging other people, you know, ultimately that is a disconnection from source as well. So how do we navigate this and this experience, and any experience, because it's such a great microscope into how life is, even regardless of the pandemic, right? Where are we not having freedom within ourselves? Where are we looking outside of ourselves, like you were saying, for someone to lead us? It's like, you know, my truth is, we're never going to know, quote unquote, all the human experience truth. Like, for me, I will say, what I got as I went in that makes me feel comfortable, or, what has made me feel comfortable is, people who, let's say, it was born in a laboratory, or it was all these conspiracies. Well, for me, when I went into my own meditation, and again, doesn't mean that anyone needs to agree with me, but what serves me is to not lean into those conspiracies and ask within. So when I asked, tell me what I need to know about this virus. Tell me what I need to know about this opportunity. One of the things was I saw 4 different points, and that's not necessarily all of them, where this manifested experience was lying dormant, ready for it to serve us. And I do say serve us because that's how I look for things. I look for finding what's the gold, what can I extract from this experience? Whether someone gets sick in my family, whether someone passes, and we can talk about maybe the death experience too from our perspective. But we're never going to know. What if we just went there? We're never going to know.
That. Like that works for me.
Like in a way, and I know there's going to be people who this won't serve. Who cares, right? The truth is, right now we are being asked to do certain things and not do certain things. Now we can either obey those rules or not. It's still the freedom of choice. You might have some restrictions if you go hog wild somewhere, but still, you're still at choice. You can still work in certain jobs, right? Or maybe you find something else to do. Maybe your job wasn't serving you. To me, I think it's so interesting to see what has been serving us, what doesn't, and where we want to go from here. And I think the conspiracies, I think trying to figure it out, I think messaging back and forth, sometimes even talking about it, we could even use part of this is that that's a distraction for me. That's utilizing my energy in a way that I don't know that that's serving anyone at all.
Thank you for sharing that. I love, what if we just make peace with the idea that we will never know the cause, the root, the agenda? What if we never know and make it okay with that? And I think you just nailed something, especially for me today, Deb, which is the distraction. I think, me scrolling on Facebook and watching some of these videos pointing to some theories out there, it's a form of distraction. And I think a lot of people use, not just me, I found myself doing that today and other days with social media, and a lot of people might be using, watching the news all day long as a distraction. And so I guess the invitation here for us would be, what are we distracting from? What is going on here that we looking for the distraction? And I will say right away for me what it is. For me, it's fear of losing my business. Mm-hmm. It's fear of not being able to pay my rent in my business next month.
Sure. Fear
of not getting new clients to keep supporting the business. So that is my distraction. I'm distracting because I don't want to sit with that fear. And as a coach, as I teach always my client, I know better. Sit with that fear, be with that fear. And even with all these daily practices that I have every day, I still can become a victim of the place of like distraction, judging, instead of just going within and sitting with that fear, so I can move from that place of fear to love. And I'm sharing this with my audience, being totally vulnerable, because I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing the same thing. So if you catch yourself distracting out there, either with food, alcohol, news, Facebook, Instagram, ask yourself, what are you distracting from? What is it? Because I think that's the invitation for love.
Right, for sure. And the thing too is what I love here, and the vulnerability, I think it's so important for us to, whatever we do, but if we are out there saying we want to serve, because that's really the ultimate bottom line, is we want to serve. Yes. We want to create freedom for our clients, right? And for ourselves in every aspect, in our health, in our wealth, in our relationships to everything. And I think this vulnerability is really important, because people can go, okay, yes, Alex, Deborah, they experience the same things. And then they're constantly looking for ways to, I don't want to say improve self, but just create create more joy and happiness and move through these experiences perhaps at a quicker rate than staying in the suffering and the muck, right? And then ultimately, you know, can we use those times like, okay, maybe I'm afraid of my business, or whatever it is. Okay, can I stop and can maybe I go get quiet? Can I go into nature? Maybe I can ask, for me, I call them clarifying questions. So what really wants to come through today? What am I stopping? Am I stopping my greatness by being in fear? Can I take the same time and energy and maybe sit in with what I call spirit or angels or nature spirit, ancestors, you know, love? To me, I don't care what you call it. If people freak out about angels and all that kind of stuff, let's just call it love. If I sit with love and I ask love, what do I need to know for my highest good today? That is one of the questions I give to my clients all the time. I utilize it myself. So if I'm in fear of losing whatever it is, let's say my business, not being able to pay rent, or all these kinds of things, I can sit in it and I can go, okay, what is love wanting me to do, or to be, or to say? And sometimes it's just be still. Sometimes it's go on a walk or whatever. You know, I know one of the gifts of this time is that it's been a great equalizer. Now, everyone's experiencing this in very different ways. But if you haven't gotten this yet, you know, not you, Alex, but our audience, right? That everyone, unless they're someplace off grid that doesn't know about this, right, and is able to eat and drink and right, you're having the ability to see that no one is above you and no one is below you. Everyone, this is a great equalizer. This is another thing that came in my meditation. What a great equalizer this is. And people go, it doesn't really equal. The idea is that no one is better than the other, and we are all of equal value. And the truth is, we're judging all the time. We're judging someone above us or below us, or you know, someone's not doing the right thing. But we didn't come to have this collective earth experience beyond the pandemic in complete agreement. The value of different places to live, the value of different skin tones, the value of different vocabularies, all of that is giving all of us contrast. And I always think the invitation is, how can we be more loving? How can we be more of ourselves?
Yes. So I wanted to ask you something about anger. So I
love anger.
I have a lot of my own audience asking me, you know, about how to deal with their spouses or their partners, because they are in the state of, you know, elevated emotional state, positivity, and their spouses are in that state of negativity. So if we're speaking to people now who are feeling heavy, angry chronically because they're watching the news and then they focus on those thoughts of anger, and if we, at the end of the day, we need to be part of the solution, right? We don't want to be part of the problem. And it's my view that if we stay in that place of fear and anger, we become part or more of the problem. So can you break that down a little bit for audience? Like, basically, I want to show the audience why is staying in that place of anger and judgment and fear does not serve.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say twofold, and this could surprise you. So I think it can serve. So this is why you and I talk, right?
It
So
is.
where it doesn't, so maybe we can do kind of a pros and cons, right? So where it doesn't serve us, for example, is we talked about, we know this, the chemical reaction in our body, right? So if we stay in chronic anger, chronic anxiety, the chronic judgment, all, you know, throw in all those words, it reduces our ability of our body to have an amazing immune system. Okay, so, you know, I'm not a doctor or whatever. We're just going to talk really chunky basic stuff.
Oh,
right?
we understand stress, yes.
Right. And not only that, so let's go to energy, right? The energy of those emotions, whether I put on my happy face and I'm like, hi, how's it going? If that's what I'm running, you're going to feel it. Yes. And you're going to be more repelled from me unless you really dig that emotion and you want to jump in there and kind of, you know, it's so funny. I see mud wrestling and wrestle in the mud with me, right? So it's not going to serve our immune system. It's not going to serve the rest of society if we stay in that chronic state,
And that's
right?
what I mean, staying,
Okay,
yes.
so staying. But if, but also in that chronic state, even if you stayed in that chronic state, it would be serving you in that you know what you don't want or you don't like, and in that that contrast in experiences instantly answers what we do want. And I believe we're putting that in, I call it my cauldron, I think Abraham calls it the vortex. We're constantly putting those futurized um, experiences or things that we're wanting in there. Now the idea to get out of that chronic state is so that we can catch up to what we're putting in there, right? And that's what you're talking about. You know, one of the, I think the number one things that we can do is to get out in nature, because nature, and you love nature too, right? And I've gotten out in nature more than ever being here in Boulder. Gosh, I've been here, I think almost 60 days, and I haven't sat here in Boulder, as you know, for 60 days in years, right? I'm always popping around. But getting out in nature, because nature is that reminder that this too shall pass. You know, it doesn't always stay the same. We have the seasons, we have leaves coming out, we have water running, like it helps to serve, you know. So go, another key thing around nature is if you're really in a chronic crappy state, go and get up early in the morning and watch the sunrise. You know, I believe that nature continues to serve us in a way that reminds us that there's a new day coming, right? There's a new moment coming. We have these rest periods, we have these awake periods, and this idea of rhythm and creating a rhythm for ourselves can really support us in moving through. And I would also say, be a little bit okay with that anger, but then do something with it, right? Sometimes I take that anger and man, I clean out something and I move it, right? I don't want it to get stuck in my body, because trust me, I know what that looks like. You know me, I've had chronic unwellness before and cancer. So now I'm like, oh, I don't want that to stick, if you will. So I want to do something to move it. And so moving your body, exercising, pounding, you know, a bat on a bed, anything to move the body. I'm going to share a vulnerable piece and share one of the things I did with it. And so on the 1st of April, I normally get a check. It's a constant check. I have tenants that are in another state, a commercial property, and it's one of my sources of income, right? And I don't know if I even told you this, just even privately. And I'm like, you know, I didn't get the notification that, you know, the check was going to be deposited, you know, just electronic deposit. So it was on my mind, and I'm hearing, you know, I'm feeling the ripple already through March. I'm like, and so, you know, I checked in on it, and that check was not coming in because of of course, it's a restaurant actually. So that property is connected to, and I was like, oh my God, like that's a beautiful chunk that, of course, you know, it's one of my streams. And I'm like, I could feel the nervousness, right? I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And I'm like, okay, Colin, you know, you're going to be okay. Everything's fine. And then I went for a walk with one of my kiddos, and I could feel it. And I thought, I don't want to feel like this. I mean, in the end, I've had enough crazy experiences that even if everything goes away, and maybe this is something for people to know, you know, that the temporariness, the impermanence of everything except for our eternal beings is right here. And I think people are feeling that, and that scares them. But it's like, okay, so if I lost everything, what would I really be losing? Could I regain? Could I rebuild? Of course I could. And that's this knowing. And I think that's a piece to tell our audience, like that can happen for you too. You can have that knowing. So anyways, I went on a trail and I'm hiking along, and I just could feel it. And I'm like, I just started yelling, just completely looking like a crazy lunatic with my mask on. And I'm yelling and yelling. And my kid finally goes, God, enough. And I had a judgment and an assumption already. And I'm like, I don't care what anyone thinks. What do I care what anyone thinks out here? God bless my kid, because that's not what they were yelling. They were yelling at me about yelling. And it was like, Mom, it's just too much. Your energy's too big right now. I'm like, okay, you know, I didn't want to offend, but I took it out and I put it out in nature and I moved it. And in moving that, there was this settling, and there was this more calm, and there was just this knowing, because I moved the fear out, the answers start to come in. It was like, everything's going to be fine. You're going to be okay. And when you get to the bottom, bottom line is like, I have a roof over my head. I can pay, my basic bills, let's just say, and I can eat. We'll figure out the rest, right?
I've been doing the same thing. And as I share a lot of videos in the beginning of this pandemic about how to make peace with uncertainty, it was about the same teachings, like what would happen if we lost it all, if we lost. And of course, I'm not saying it's going to be fun and it's good, it's nice. No, but at the end of the day, it's like, what is certain for us? What is the only thing that we truly have certainty, right? So I love that you shared that story, because it's true. We have our talents or gifts or intelligence or wisdom, and we need to tell ourselves constantly, especially right now, that we're going to be okay. We are okay now, and we're going to be okay. And if we're not, we're going to figure out what to do then, so we don't go into the place of worry and anxiety, because the truth is things are changing every single day. So
absolutely. Well, and here's the thing too, when we're in fear, when we're in uncertainty, and one of the big things that I trust and I teach about is your own, inner voice, your intuition, your ability to hear those answers that are coming. And I think it's a time to ask these questions, like, is what I'm doing serving me? Is the relationship I'm in, am I serving that? Is it serving me? It is maybe the job I've been thinking is my career, or is it using my talents and my gifts? And it's just a time, I think, of great reckoning. That was another words that came through. And I love that. I mean, I'm really curious for my own inner work. Like, what is the juicy stuff that's going to come out of this for me personally and for other people? And I think that's the place to go to. And I think if we ask those questions, love, what do I need to know today? Love, what do I need to know about my career? Love, what do I need to know about my relationship, about my health? If you will just let those fly out into, and I do think this is practical. I think it's just as practical as go and run a mile. Mm-hmm. Put these practical, spiritual questions out, and then just allow the answers to come and be surprised. And I like the word expect. A lot of people use expecting and attachment a little differently than I do. I expect good to come.
Yeah.
That is a practical tool. What if someone today that's listening says, oh my gosh, I'm just going to begin to expect good. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to take what Alex and Deborah are talking about, and I'm going to expect good, but I'm going to be unattached to how that good comes. Right? And within that, I see, what are the talents and the gifts of each one of the people that are listening right now? What are the latent talents and gifts that are wanting to emerge, right? Does someone want to paint? Does someone want to play music? Does someone want to become a coach, learn how to coach through you? Something like this. I just think there's so many gifts that there's a rebirth and an emergence that can happen with this. And I just think there's a cleaning of the house. And if we're open to that, man, we're going to be able to ride whatever comes.
I love that. So we have about 5 minutes left. I want to ask you, I love what you just shared. Ask love, what wants to come, or as a teacher that we both admire, Michael Beckwith, always says, what wants to emerge through me today? I love that, right? Those powerful questions. Now, I know some of our audience are feeling paralyzed or stuck in fear, that they cannot even get themselves to ask a question like that. So what advice would you give to somebody right now that it's in so much fear that they might run out of money, fear they might run out of job, fear that their kids might not go back to school until January and they have to work full time? They are in the thick place of fear. What would you tell them, Deb?
Okay, so one of the things that I love to do in my answers is, in a way, not answer from Deborah per se, right? To me, when we're having this conversation, I'm always looking for those insights that are coming through. And that's the invitation for people. So what I see, it's interesting. I see this kind of this oracle card. It's a green Tara for some reason. I'm just going to share, just going to be open. And on that card, it says delegating. And so two things I would do. I would increase my ability to ask and not just be in prayer. Often people are like, help, but then they don't listen for the answers. Or they don't like the answers that are coming through.
They don't like the answers. Yes.
They don't like the answers because it maybe feels scary, or maybe it's, you know, it's like, oh, an answered prayer would feel juicy and great and perfect. It's like, no, sometimes your answered prayer is you're knowing like you need to leave a relationship, right? That was one of mine years and years ago. That didn't feel great. I wasn't like, oh, fantastic, this feels wonderful. It was a process, but there was a deep knowing that I needed to do so. So one of the things would be delegate. And let me tell you how to delegate. Delegate in this realm for me would be, I would be asking love, God, spirit, source, whatever the words are for our audience that would serve them. I would ask for help, period, end of story. In any way, ask for help, and then set an intention to have the most beautiful, reverent listening, however that comes. Maybe someone suggests a book to you. Maybe someone suggests some music to you. Maybe someone suggests listening to a free, you know, podcast like this. Listen to as many positive things across the board as you can get a handle on. And then the other thing is, and I noticed this for a lot of people, they don't necessarily ask spirit for support, and they're also not asking their fellow human for support. You know, there's nothing shameful. In fact, I think it's the most courageous thing. And like, I feel very teary. If you need support, ask someone. Ask someone. If it's a bottom line, I can't pay my bill, then ask for support. Ask a friend, ask a family member, you know, whatever it is. If you can't pay your rent, then you go to your landlord. I mean, there's so many different things that are changing with law right now pertaining to this. Then you go to your landlord and you negotiate, right? Ask for support. I think that is hands down the most important thing, because the truth is we were never meant to do this experience alone, ever. We have friends, we have family, we have even strangers that can support us. And so if you need support, I would ask a stranger, I would ask a family member, I would ask your spouse, your friends, something. We're not meant to do this alone. And I think if we're thinking we have to do this outer human experience alone, we're already off course. So get back on course and ask for support in both worlds, if you will.
I love it. But I know this is one of the gold nuggets coming from this crisis, right? How we're learning how to collaborate and contribute with each other, and going back to live as a community and ask for help, because I find a lot of people have such a difficult, they feel so much shame around asking for help. And this is the time to overcome that and come together and work together. And beautiful, well done. And there are other things I want to ask you, but
let's talk again.
Time, which means we're going to talk again, and maybe next time we can address this our relationship. We will go a little deeper in the spiritual topic of like exploring a relationship with death, which is
that'd be fantastic
law right now. So, friends, stay tuned. We're gonna talk with Deborah again and have these fun conversations. And we want to invite you here to post questions. This video is gonna be posted on social media. You're gonna also have our emails. Send questions, because we want to answer questions. We want to help you. We want to serve you, because this is what we love to do. So make sure you send us questions. And before I let that go, Deb, what if our audience wants more of you? They want to read your books, they want to follow your posts, or take advantage of the free gifts you have on your website. How can they find you?
Okay, well, so my my website that of course is a little older.
So it's mine.
Oh my gosh, I am so ready to like flush it, right, and put something.
Don't judge us, audience.
Don't judge. No, but the idea, exactly. That's not who we are. But let me just say, angelsandprosperity.com is one of the places that you can find me. Deborah Attiane Wilson on Facebook is a great place to just do quick interactions right there for sure. And all of previous radio shows, my music, information about books, you can find so many of those links right on Facebook. I have my book, It's Okay to Be Spiritual and Wealthy, on Amazon. And I want to say, everyone should get this, whether they're graduating from anything. I'm going to be putting free out on Amazon for the Kindle version, the It's Okay to Be Spiritual and Wealthy for grads. There's a quote book. Anyways, I think we're all going to be graduating from something during this. And so it's just a sweet book that I'm going to be offering free. So look for that this week.
I love it. Friends, take advantage of that gift. She has so much wisdom to share.
Oh, you're
And
sweet. Thank you, Alex, for sharing this.
So thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please share on your social media channels, ask questions, because we're going to do this again.
Oh my God, it'd be so fun. I love you.
What another. Love you too.
Blessings, everyone.